Welcome in, everybody, to another great edition of The Rundown, our district baseball and softball bracket review here on Big Rapids Daily News on YouTube and WBRN. Brandon Wirt, Jack Heckman giving you the good stuff as always. And Jack, we've now seen the tournaments for district rounds in the books, and the CSAA really had some tough sledding. Originally, we thought they had a pretty good shot, but it looks like all of our other teams stepped up big time this weekend.
Yeah, most definitely. Out of the 22 teams combined between baseball and softball, only two of them advanced, coming from the same school as Central Montcalm. Definitely some tough losses for some teams. It's always hard in the playoffs to keep surviving and advancing.
Survive in advance, indeed. We'll break down who's moving on as well as game recaps as we go from baseball to softball here throughout this episode. So be sure to stay tuned. And if you're with us on YouTube, hey, you can skip ahead in the time codes to find your district and your team and how they did with our analysis also paired with it. Before we get into the brackets, big thanks to Denny's Muffler and Brakes. They're on State Street in Big Rapids. They can fix any general auto repair, especially brakes, mufflers, the whole 9 yards. Call the number on your screen, and we're going to go visit them on State Street. Denny's Muffler and Brakes, a proud sponsor of the Rundown. Jack, let's get right into it. We'll start, obviously, with the Cardinals in District 35, as well as the Warriors. Overall, very, very, very fun first-round games, both one-run margins. Big Rapids really, it felt like they really had this one, especially going into that final inning. But you got to give credit to Cadillac. They were resilient, and as you mentioned to me, Jack, used a lot of pitchers in that matchup. And obviously, that was a big reason why they were upset by Ludington in that next round. But I mean, for Coach Carpelli and Coach Ben Wright's team, they fought the whole way, just had a one-run margin fall, not in their favor.
Yeah, Ludington coming in with the lowest MPR. They're coming out to win this district. Obviously, a huge surprise there. But the Big Rapids Cadillac game, Big Rapids really had this one in the bag towards the end. And then it came down to a couple walks, couple pass balls there, and Cadillac was just able to knock some runners in and get that win. Chip Hills really played good. They had 13 hits, but the errors and the ability to close this game are what cost this Warriors team a district championship potentially and their win versus Ludington. But Perkins and Humphrey, they both stepped up, both 2 for 5. Their top five hitters combined for 11 hits. And that's the type of consistency and production you're looking from your top hitters. The way lineups are structured nowadays, you're not looking at the traditional lineup where your best hitters hitting three. Nowadays you have your best hitter hitting two or one because you're getting more at bats. And that's the exact thing we saw from Chip Hills is you're getting those productive at bats at the top, but they really just couldn't do it there. Ludington outlasted them, got the walk-off win, and was able to outlast Cadillac because Cadillac had to use so many pitches in that first game versus Big Rapids. That's really what led to the success for this Orioles team.
Absolutely. Congrats to Ludington. They will be playing Standish Sterling, a team that has ended my postseason run many times on the diamond. So good luck to the Orioles. They're out of District 35. They'll move to District 39. Sparta was the favorite in this one, and they showed why, taking down that bracket that consists of Tri-County, Grant, and Newaygo. Overall, Grant had a good opportunity, but overall, they just ran into a really good team. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. That's how ball goes. And obviously, Fremont hosting that district had a little bit of a sniff. But overall, Sparta was the overpowering team, and they proved it this weekend.
Yeah, most definitely. Grant just ran into a really good Sparta team, like you said. Sparta's coming in with such a great strength of schedule, far ahead of these other teams. Their MPR being almost a point 100 higher than Fremont Tri County. Grant still got that 516 MPR. But this was a Sparta team that showed why they're so good and why their record says what it does, and they've earned the right to play in a regional semifinal. Grant, they ran into them. It was just a tough game, tough draw for that Tigers team. That was a really good roster they had this year. Their pitching was dominant, just a tough way to end it in a one-run game versus Sparta. You really fought to the end. It was a dogfight between those two teams. But moving over to Tri-County. Tri-County they were looking bright coming in. They had a sweep of Central Montcalm before the playoffs. But like their pitching was good. Like it was 14 strikeouts from David Torrey. They were setting up perfectly to win that game versus Fremont. They were getting the strikeouts. They just weren't able to bat the runs in.
Absolutely. Certainly a good season overall from these teams. Obviously, win-loss record might not necessarily show it, and it might vary, but postseason, it's 0-0. So you'll see these teams, like we just mentioned in the previous bracket, Ludington running it with the lowest MPR and the lowest overall win percentage and record. So you just never know. Looking at 71, I mean, what a district championship game. I wasn't able to see this one, but I got a lot of people telling me about it. A one-run suicide squeeze to win it for the Wildcats over the Coyotes in dramatic fashion. I believe 10-9 was the final score there. Reed City took care of business against Harrison. Evart fought through, beat Pine River, And those two teams we knew, especially after that season split in the recent series, that it was going to be a good one, and it certainly did.
Yeah, most definitely. Everett was dominant in that first one, got in that suicide squeeze, like you said, the walk-off in the second one. But Reed City, they were able to capitalize on Harrison's 5 errors in that first game. And that's what it comes to playoffs. You got to be not perfect, but you got to be great at what you do and great at your craft. You can't have these errors and mistakes in the playoffs, especially when you're playing in a weaker district like this. Harrison, Reed City, Pine River, Evart. That was really a toss-up. Even Farwell could have beat Reed City and gone on and played in that district championship. You just can't have these errors coming in the playoffs. It's something that a lot of coaches stress, and there's a reason why they stress it because it is so valuable and runs come at a premium in the playoffs.
Fundamentals indeed are extremely important, and especially looking at District 73. I mean, this was one we were kind of in a maybe a coin flip. North Muskegon was probably the best team on paper, but they did not get out of this district as Muskegon West Michigan Christian really, it felt like they were a good team. They showed that they were a great team in this postseason because they just played so well. And for Kent City, obviously the team representing out of the CSA, a little bit of a downfall struggle to the season, and unfortunately, just a bad draw at the end of the day. That West Michigan Christian team was overpowering, and they showed it against the Eagles, who really just didn't have a lot of momentum going into the playoffs.
Yeah, most definitely. Kent City was an 8-20 team going into the playoffs. And if you're looking at every other team in this district right now, Montague had a 19-10 record going in. You mentioned the Kent City 8-20, Western Michigan Christian. We didn't have a whole lot of information on, but they were still a 5-19 team. We have a lot of information on them now. They are a dominant ball club. North Muskegon 22-4. We both thought was going to come out on top there, but Kent City just ran into a really good team, like you said. They simply got outplayed, weren't able to play to the level of that Muskegon Western Christian.
Absolutely. We wish them the best of luck in the next round. And for District 74, Central Montcalm taking care of business, the team we were obviously looking and tracking quite a bit this season. I'll give a lot of credit to Lakeview on that semifinal matchup. They came back, fought to the very end. That last comeback, everybody, I'm sure Hornet fans had some sweaty palms watching those last two innings. But great overall pitching performances. Defensively, they played very, very well. And against a pretty good North Point team, obviously, record doesn't show it. Still, not a bad team, but Central Montcalm, just pure dominance. Played very, very well this weekend.
Yeah, most definitely. Those are two things that coaches stress, including the pitching, throwing strikes, and playing clean defense. Those are things that I know can get coaches very mad out there. But that's what Central Montcalm is. They're just a good ball club coming out, pitching very well, playing good defense, led by Bracey, led by Lingman. Those are two guys who can carry this Central Montcalm team far into playoffs as they're going to come up against a tough Muskegon Western Michigan Christian team.
Absolutely. And it'll be especially interesting for that Central Montcalm coaching staff how they approach West Michigan Christian, whether they might throw Bracey, whether they might throw Lingman to try to see how far and how confident they feel with that potential next round matchup if they were to get past them. But it'll be very interesting. And I think, Jack, especially for them, that's going to be a good problem to have because you want to be thinking about those decisions. But obviously, the Bats have also been very, very good. Now, they haven't put up, 10, 12 runs a game. They know they scored only about 10 overall combined in those two games this weekend. But the defense and pitching have showed it. And if they can get the Bats going, they're going to definitely need them against a really good ball club, even though those guys on the mound are going to be fantastic. I mean, when you're playing those good offenses, you're going to expect probably them to put up maybe, 2, 3, 4 runs. So they're going to have to step up with their bats as well in this next regional round.
Yeah, most definitely. That's a dominant team that can get even more dominant as they sit right now. Like you said, those bats get going. This is a hot Central Montcalm team that who knows, we may be looking at them at a state quarterfinal team come next week.
We will certainly wait and see. The final baseball district for you, 108. Muskegon Catholic Central gets out of this one. White Cloud, that wasn't the prettiest game based on what we saw on stats, based on what we saw as far as just perspective that was given to us. But they figured out a way. You figure out a way in the postseason, you move on, and they certainly did that in game one. And then obviously Catholic Central just overpowered them and proved they were the better team than White Cloud.
Yeah, most definitely. That first game with White Cloud, they don't ask how you win, they ask if you win, and that's exactly what White Cloud was able to come and do. But they ran into a tough Muskegon Catholic Central team. That Muskegon Catholic Central team didn't have a whole lot on them, but right now we do, and that's a great ball club coming in out of Muskegon. The 16-8-1 record, a solid NPR for a Division IV team, and right now they're sitting at a pretty good spot to give some teams for the run for their money, especially in Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart. Probably not on the same level as at Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart because of how dominant that team is, and they came out, won that district at Beale City. But this is a solid team for a Division 4 team, if I do say so myself.
Absolutely. That concludes baseball. We'll get to softball. But first, if you want a job that impacts your life, visit eaglevillage.org. They are hiring various staff roles here throughout this summer and in the immediate future. If you want to know more information, visit eaglevillage.org. Eagle Village, where a potential source. We look over to softball. We'll start in District 35. Grant was represented in this one. And frankly, for the Tigers, great season, incredible season. Just strictly a bad day to have a bad day against a very, very good Fremont team, which I thought had a really good chance to get out of this district, but Oak Ridge had other ideas.
Yeah, most definitely. That Grant team, they just really got outplayed in almost every facet of the game. We talked about the last week how they had that matchup, the 6-1 versus Fremont. But this was a Grant team that just simply couldn't get it done. They didn't play to the level that we've seen them play at. This is a team that went 19-1 in the CSA Red softball. And they're a 23-8 team. That's a team, you talk about getting to a good win mark. You're usually talking about the 23 to 25, the 21 to 27. Somewhere in that range is where you want to be if you want to, have a good shot at winning something, especially between conference, districts, potentially even regionals. But this was a great Grant team that's had a rough end to their season.
Absolutely. Still great season nonetheless from the Tigers and other CSAA teams as we move over to District 36. Overall, Big Rapids gets through Tri-County, dominant fashion. The Vikings have just really had a struggle all year. They really just need that foundation put up so they can advance because it's been a struggle the last couple of years. But Big Rapids got through round one and then just ran into a really good Blue Jay team that shut them out in that district championship game, and maybe one Blue Jay team that many people might overlook and should be a little concerned about for that next district, or I should say regional semifinal round coming out of the district.
Yeah, most definitely. Shepherd plays a dominant brand of ball, but Big Rapids, they was a little shaky at first. They were down, I think, 9-4. They came back, won that one 25-9, and just a dominant last couple innings of that one for Big Rapids. But Tri-County, you didn't have a win this season, but don't frown upon it. You have 7 of your 14 players are freshmen. There's a little bit to look forward to going into the next season. This is a team, Tri-County, that may surprise a few people next year. Their win total might not get to 5, but that's not winning a game over the last 2 seasons, and you go out and you win 5 games next year. That's a big jump for some teams. And if you're coming in with a potential culture changing class with those 7 of 14 freshmen, that's something you can go on, change, and you pass down to those next coming classes. I wouldn't get too down on this or overlook this Tri-County team next year.
Be certainly interesting to see. And the Cardinals with a good season, not to the same win-loss margin, but they do reach that district championship. Moving over to District 70, the matchup that we were all looking for, that Claire Evart matchup, and the Pioneers show why they are ranked higher than the Wildcats with that 5-0 win as they advance out of the district. Reed City falls to a good Farwell team. Overall, Reed City, a little bit up and down year. Quite a few injuries, couple players not available that really made this roster a little bit more thin than Coach Stieg would have liked, especially looking what he had from last year. But overall, still a solid season for the Coyotes. And obviously, out of that district, might be our regional champion in the Pioneers because they look that good when they played Everett this weekend.
Yeah, most definitely. That Pioneers team is very, very good. Everett was a very good team this year, and they were extremely good last year. But Reed City and Big Rapids, putting those 2 teams together, those are 2 teams who are at the top of the table. Reed City, 31 wins last year. Big Rapids, I think, was 27 or somewhere around there. But a complete script flip from the CSA Red, Newaygo, Grant going out on top of that conference. Imagine if you had that dominant of a conference, Newaygo and Grant this year, from the Big Rapids and Reed City last year, looking at an extremely dominant conference. But that's just not the way it is. And this was a tough, tough season for Reed City, only getting to that 7-win mark. But there was a lot to look at this season, a lot of hype going into this season. I kind of expected them to take that jump forward and win the conference, but it just didn't come out that way. And this was a tough way for Reed City to end that season.
Tough indeed, but still sending some players on for college ball, especially some other schools. We've seen that, which is great because the area needs to have those, ability to show out these individual players that can play with a lot of these players and are moving to the next level, which is very, very cool indeed. Looking at District 74, Newaygo and Kent City representing the CSA out of this district. Neither team moves on as they also ran into a very good state-ranked team in Ravenna. The Bulldogs certainly are a team to watch. Looking forward here to the regional rounds. But overall, Newaygo really did not hit the ball very badly. They got some runs across, but Ravenna's offense was just too overpowering. And Kent City, tough one against a good North Muskegon team. Certainly looked like there was some bright things coming for the Eagles team. Unfortunate early season end, but look out for next year's team, especially if they can reload here this next summer going into the spring of 26.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think of all teams across CSA baseball and softball, I think Kent City softball teams is a team that had the biggest advantage from the conference split. We saw their win total jump quite a bit, and that's something, you look at, and that's an exciting team coming up next year. They got a good group of athletes right now. We'll see if they can put it together. We've talked about Big Rapids, Reed City lost a couple people last year, and now look at this year. They're teams who both had under 10 wins. But that's a Kent City team that's got some hype going into next year. That's something you can build on. But that's Ravenna team. They're going to go for the three-peat, try to beat another CSA team coming up on Saturday. But this was just a tough district for Kent City and Newaygo to go out and try to win. They lost. This is their third loss to Ravenna now, all in dominant fashion. This Ravenna club is amazingly good.
They are very good indeed. And now they will play the other half of the Hornets advancing to the regional round. Central Montcalm outlasting Morley Stanwood. The approach at the plate, I think, really won this one for the Hornets. Morley has a great pitching staff, and they have the ability to score and defend. But overall, the Hornets just found a way to get more on base, get more runs across than a very good Morley Stanwood team, and what sounded like a very, very fun championship classic last Saturday.
Yeah, most definitely. I'll dive into that Lakeview Morley Stanwood game first, but the 5 errors from Lakeview defensively and the combined fact that Morley Stanwood was on top of their game, pitching and hitting the bats well, those are two things that just don't mix. They don't mix in the regular season. They especially don't mix in the postseason. And there was 13 hits from the top six batters from Morley Stanwood. Valuable at bats. We talked about with Chip Hill's baseball, the way the new lineups look these days and the way the game is always evolving between baseball and softball. You're looking at different lineups every day, and especially those top hitters, your top six, obviously they're best hitters no matter what. But they got some valuable at bats from that top six. Moving on to Central Montcalm and Chip Hills, they just jumped on them early. A 3 inning, 16 to nothing run rule game. They didn't even let the Warriors get off the bus and enjoy their stay at all. This was a pure domination win. They worked deep counts. Central Montcalm threw 107 pitches in 3 innings. That is a lot of pitches. You're looking at almost 30 or over 35 pitches per inning. And that was just, they didn't even score in the first inning, mind you. They scored 4 in the second inning, 12 in the third inning, and it was just a rough game for Chip Hills, I should say. But moving on to that championship game between Central Montcalm and Morley Stanwood, it was a great hitting onslaught from both teams. Hornets just outlasted Morley Stanwood. We've really seen that amazing pitching from Morley Stanwood all season. They just couldn't finish the job in the district championship. We talked about Ravenna. Central Montcalm has earned that right to play Ravenna on Saturday. Mentioned it earlier. Ravenna's already taken down 2 CSAA teams.
Yeah, and it's going to be really fun to see how this Hornet team squares off against Ravenna. The Bulldogs are a very good hitting team. They showed that, especially against Newaygo. But for Central Montcalm, that momentum and confidence after beating a very good Morley Stanwood team, especially a good pitching and defensive team in Morley Stanwood, I think that's got to give them a lot of confidence. They got to have that same approach at the plate, scrap runs as much as possible, so just focus on squaring up the softball, not trying to do too much and play your game. But it's going to be very interesting. This Ravenna team is very good. But if Central Montcalm has that mindset to win every count, win every at bat, play good defensively, and pitch well, they're going to have a good chance here against this Ravenna team. But they're certainly going to have to play their best to get past the Bulldogs.
Yeah, most stuff. This is a Central Montcalm team that's got to be at the top of the game versus an amazing Bulldogs team. You talked about winning every at bat, every pitch. How about winning every second you have on the ball field? That's something the Central Montcalm teams. It's going to take a lot to beat this Bulldogs team, but it's not a miracle if they do it. I think this Hornets team has a very good shot at beating the Bulldogs team, but Ravenna is a tough task.
Absolutely. The final district in softball action, 108 out of Division 4. White Cloud playing against Pentwater. But I think it was a very, what you would call a little league type of game. Just a lot of errors on defensively for both sides. But overall, Holton is the champion out of this district, and they certainly were the one we were watching, this Red Devil program. Even though the win losses might have been down a little bit this year, they're still proven. They have the product, they have that foundation built, and that team is going on for another regional bout.
Yeah, most definitely. Just looking at the total amount of games played from this Holton team, 35 games. White Cloud had 7, or I should say 6 less. Same thing with Mason County Eastern. But White Cloud and Pentwater, 14 combined errors. Definitely was not the game you want to watch, but I mean, it was a game to say nonetheless. But 15 errors in the two games combined for White Cloud. That's something you can't have happen. We talked about it earlier. That's a huge thing that coaches are always stressing is errors, simple plays. Don't make the mistakes that are easily fixable. But that was a team. Holton came out in that district championship game, 20-2, huge win margin in a district championship. Holton earned the right to advance, and they earned it correctly. They played a dominant brand of softball.
Absolutely, indeed. And we wish all of our regional bound teams the best of luck, especially in our area. And we'll get a little bit of a recap for you here around the league here next week. So be sure to check back in. Same time, same place. You are finding this episode, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on WBRN.com, or if you're live with us here over the airwaves on 96.5 and 107.7 FM. You can also listen to WBRN.com and the WBRN mobile app every Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Jack and myself. And we're continuing this thing on in the summer, Jack. We're very excited what we have planned. We got some great things to cover. We obviously got some travel ball for some local teams. We'll obviously touch on a lot of the sport recaps. We got player and interviews for you here more in depth here over the summer. And we'll eventually get to what everybody's looking forward to, some good high school football as well once we get to August.
Yeah, most definitely. Can't wait for the summer. Can't wait for August, September. Those are, in my opinion, I think high school football is the best sport in high school across all sports. It doesn't matter what state you're in. High school football is one of the most exciting things you have.
Absolutely. So we can't wait to get you there. I've also heard some requests for maybe some Tigers baseball and some Lions football. And Jack, I know for a fact that we both love talking about those things. So we'll probably add that to the mix as well here in our Big Rapids Media Network lineup. But thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week here on the Rundown here on Big Rapids Daily News.